So Mark Hamill hated Rian Johnson's reason for Luke isolating into exile so much that he cooked up the most disturbing, darkest possible headcanon backstory to bring himself to that point. We will hear that clip from Mark Hamill later on the show in our discussion, but we have a loaded one. So welcome everybody to TRB. We hope you had a great 4th of July in the States. We hope everyone, wherever you are in the galaxy, listening to this, you know you're part of the Resistance and you are in the Resistance base. I'm John. With me, as always, Lacey Gillerin. Lacey, how are you? How was your 4th?
I'm good. It was fun. Had a barbecue. Good. Had some people over. It was a good time. Made a bunch of food. I made a key lime pie, which was amazing.
Very
Big
nice.
fan of key lime pie. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I went to my brother-in-law's, swimming, beer, policing the children, the usual. The cheap, the Walmart fireworks. You got to keep it legal. And then listen to everybody else's illegal fireworks and see their fireworks.
Yeah, we did Costco, and the guy down the street from us did he had the full electronic board on his front lawn.
Oh.
And he did fireworks for 35 minutes.
Wow.
It was insane.
No police or anything, huh?
He's been doing it forever, and as in 5 years, not that long, but it feels like forever. And the cops drove by, I think last year, and they sat in the street and watched, and then they just left. So I don't know.
Bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are here. We are going to talk about Mark Hamill's thoughts, which he did on Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. So very jealous that Jesse Thorne.
And we talked about it a little bit, I think last week or the week before, but
we
we're going to
touched
get more
on
in
it.
depth about it.
Yeah, we're going to get a little deeper on that in terms of, what could have been, even some of George Lucas's ideas that parallel some of the things that happened. So it's going to be a fun discussion later. But Lacey, we are going to kick things off with one of the probably most popular segments on the show, Will of the Force.
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
Okay, it is time, and we have Patreon submissions that are part of this show. So, if you would like to be part of the show, among other cool things that we have going on, join our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/TRB podcasts. For one, you're supporting the podcast. And first off, we thank you all for doing that. We appreciate it very much. But one of the perks for being a part of our Patreon, which has a lot of things. We have a Discord server. We just did an Indiana Jones watch-along. We're doing all sorts of movie watch-alongs. We have live chats. We have one-on-ones with our Spice Runners. Mini episodes of the podcast exclusive to Patreon. A lot of cool stuff. But one of the things is if you sign up at the major level or above, you can submit questions for this segment, Will of the Force. And how it works is just pitch a question, sort of will they, won't they, will it, won't it happen, where you got to make a choice, a very easy choice, one or the other, and we feature you on the show. So thank you for that. And we kick things off this week with General Sachi. And General Sachi comes to us with this Will of the Force question. Assuming Baylan Skoll's action, once he finds what he seeks, are successful, will this action be what ultimately kills Ahsoka, that she dies of a cosmic force element and not through combat or other manner? Lacey, we know Ahsoka's going to die at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Is
by
this
at least
going to
Rise
be how?
to Skywalker. Yeah.
Will this be how Ahsoka meets her? You don't want to say they're not gone forever.
Demise.
Her physical
mortal
body.
right?
Yeah, her mortal.
Yeah. Just a little background for people that might have joined a little later than this episode. Go back and listen to our Taylor Gray episode when he came on the show to talk with us. He was the nicest person ever. And we actually got a chance to see him in Anaheim in person, which was really nice to talk to him face to face. But he's the sweetest guy, really knowledgeable about Star Wars and about his character Ezra. But
and
he told us
the Pot of the Rebellion that he does with his castmates from Rebels.
Right. Great podcast. He basically told us in so many words, and this was before Ahsoka came out, that the rise of Skywalker confirms that she's died. And the reason because he had brought up to Dave Filoni, like, hey, how come Ezra isn't talking at the end of Rise of Skywalker? Like, you have everybody else talk. How come he's not there? And Dave Filoni was basically like, that's because Ezra's not dead. So that kind of confirms that Ahsoka's dead, which it's Ashley's voice, not Rosario's
Right.
voice, because Rosario wasn't Ahsoka yet. Which is actually nice for Ashley to get that moment. But that being said, we're assuming because she's dead by that point that, which this is a great question, Sachi, would Baylan Skoll's action be the reason why? I don't think so. I think she's going down a different way. And if I was to guess, it's not going to be by the end of Ahsoka season 2, which involves Baylan. I think it's going to be in that culmination movie with Dave Filoni. And I've been saying this for like years that I don't think the Mandalorian's going to die. I don't think anybody else is going to die. I think that big Dave Filoni movie is the death of Ahsoka. And I think she's going to go down in some type of sacrificing herself for the greater good or big combat moment that will be like, that was epic.
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to be with Baylan. So
All
no,
right.
she will not.
Yeah, I don't think this is how either, Sachi. Not sure if that's how you're leaning. But I agree with Lacey in that I think that movie makes the most sense. It's Dave's movie. Ahsoka is clearly his baby.
It's his way of saying goodbye to the character. Like, then he can move on if he's touched her. Oh my God. Touched that character from beginning to end.
Yeah. He is the. I mean, you could say George Lucas because he helped create it, but really, Dave Filoni, Ahsoka is Dave Filoni's just
Baby.
like A1 character, and nobody can argue against that. But
yeah,
I don't think this is how she's going to go either. Ahsoka's definitely going to have more of a hero death to me than be swept up in some sort of cataclysmic Thanos snap thing. I think she's going to go out with her sword. I think she's going to have that sort of samurai hero death. And it will be in the movie because I can't imagine Dave Filoni taking out his number one favorite Star Wars character that he created and told her story from literal birth to her death. I don't think he's going to kill her off on Disney Plus. I think it's going to be on the big screen in a Star Wars movie, and that would be the movie that it happens in. So we know she's probably dying.
Sacrifice herself for Grogu in the culmination movie or something like
yeah,
that.
or Sabine, or whatever
Jason
is the most
Segula.
meaningful in that moment. Yeah. So I think that's how it's happening. But I wouldn't be surprised, Sachi, if there is something like that from Baylan, that he almost gets to this point where he becomes beyond human and has this weird supernatural connection with the Force, and it sort of just gets out of control and something terrible happens. But I don't think Ahsoka's going to fall to something that sweeps a lot of characters into a death. It's sort of like that sounds like a larger version of in The Last Jedi when the explosion happens and we're like, wait, Leia, is she okay? And then we're like, wait, Akbar's dead? What just happened?
I know.
So
don't get me started on Akbar.
Yeah. So
recently.
I didn't. Yeah, I shouldn't have brought it up. But
Still
I'm
hurt.
with you. I'm with you on that, Lacey. I don't think that's how it's going down. But all right, this next one's coming from us. So us and TRB are asking you: will Cobb Vanth make his return in The Mandalorian and Grogu? Think it through, folks, as you're mulling it over. Last we saw him was in a bacta tank at the end of Boba Fett. They tease it. So I assume he will make a return. But Lacey, I'm gonna start this one by saying I don't think Cobb Vanth is gonna be in The Mandalorian and Grogu. I hope he is because I love Timothy Olyphant. But I just don't know. So I'm just gonna lean towards no because I want him to, and I don't want to be hoping to see him and not see him. So I'm saying no for that reason. But what about you? Will Cobb Vanth return in The Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters next year?
I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I think he will show up in the movie. It's tricky because I know Boba Fett himself has been very much like, they don't call me, they don't talk to me, no one's speaking to me.
Yeah.
But again, the door has been opened by these actors, like Liam Neeson and all these other people, Lars Mikkelsen, who straight up are just lying now, Ewan McGregor. So it's hard to gauge like if they're being honest or not. If he's like, no one's calling me, and like he's literally on the phone with Jon Favreau like 10 minutes before. So I'm gonna say he will, because it's an easy way to tie it back to the show and drive people back to like, hey, what happened with it? Where did this character come from? And
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's going to show up at some point. It's just tricky because he is on Tatooine and he is now going to be the sheriff, so to speak. He's going to take over for Boba Fett eventually.
Right.
So the question would be like, why would the Mandalorian interact with him? Because he is on Tatooine. But I could see him going back to Tatooine for Pelimoto and then running into Cobb Vanth just to show the audience that Cobb Vanth is okay. Is he all right? Everybody does that social joke. Is he all right? Is he okay?
Yeah.
I think he's okay. He's fine. And he'll make an appearance. I don't think he's going to have a big role in the movie, but it's an easy kind of like cameo. So I say they will.
Yeah. I mean, we do see Rod of the Hutt in the footage of The Mandalorian. And
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Oh, my goodness. That's right. Yep.
so with the Hutts on Tatooine, that would make sense. I mean, maybe there's a good chance he does. I'm going to stick with my answer.
Don't back
but
out.
No, I can't back out. I hope he does. I hope he does. And I hope it's not one of those things where he's just sort of immobile and he's just hanging around and being a sheriff. I hope we see Cobb Vanth do those Cobb Vanth things that we liked so much in The Marshal. One of my
I think he's going to do a
episodes.
lot of leaning against walls with arms crossed.
Yeah.
It's like
And you know what though? I'm probably wrong, even though I'm sticking with my answer, because Favreau also directed that episode. So it's like
also,
makes less
I'm
sense.
always right.
Well, we know that's not true. Little pie in the face. But, all right. You stole me a pizza too. It's unbelievable.
I have tried numerous times. Don't get me started on the numerous things that you have backed out of.
So it's like on our Patreon. Another plug here for the Patreon. Lacey's always asking Chris, who is one of the greatest prop builders in the world,
And just
for
in person. Where's my Han Solo, Chris?
where's my Han Solo? And so Chris and Andy and the Belgian guys made us these things as sort of like it's
right
not a
here.
Han Solo, but you got a TRB logo that lights up in carbonite, and it's one of
It's
the
behind
greatest
me
things ever.
every week. Yeah.
And still, Lacey says, not good enough.
Because he
Where's
likes
my
it.
Han Solo?
As long as he likes it, I'll do it.
So I am going to forever say, Lacey, where's my pizza? Until I get my pizza.
I
right.
have tried giving John this pizza at least 3 or 4 times.
You're going to roll up to my house and like a paper route, like throw like a Taco Bell
I'm
Mexican pizza
I'm
at
just
my
gonna
door.
throw it at you.
Yeah.
At this
perfect.
point. All right.
All right, let's move on to another Patreon submission. This one's from Commander Sean Santarud. Sean has been with us so long.
Love Sean.
He was one of the first people to buy a TRB t-shirt back in the day. He took that awesome photo with his Make Solo 2 Happen shirt with what's her name?
I was gonna say Bryce Dallas Howard, right?
No, well, I think her, but also the first one that
Memphis Nest.
Memphis Nest, that's right. Yeah.
Aaron Kellyman, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Jeez. My aged brain. But yeah, Sean asked, apart from Thrawn, will we see any other member of the Chiss race in season 2 of Ahsoka? Lacey, what do you think?
No, we will not. I think they want to keep Thrawn special, kind of like Yoda, and they're gonna leave it as he's like the one blue guy. And also, not to insult audiences, that's not my intention, but I think having one blue guy makes you remember that he's the blue guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, their names are tough to say, so some of the actors will be like, I'm not saying that.
I just think that they're trying to make Thrawn be a little special, and so they're not going to add all these other characters that look alike.
Bill Burr's in the movie. He's like, how many effing apostrophes are in this person's name? I'm not saying this. Their name is Jeff. That's it. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm just going with they're going to keep it sort of streamlined. I'm not saying Chiss can't show up somewhere else down the
Sure.
line, but I think there's going to be so many characters and so many zombie soldiers and so many witches and so
It's
many
hard to
Jedi
follow.
and Mandos and all these characters that they have to. Filoni has to. Like, you don't have a season of Clone Wars to tell this story, and you have to tell this in a movie eventually. And then with Ahsoka, it's such a central focus. It's 8 episodes, I think. They're on the 30-minute side. There's so many of these characters that you need to tell the story to get to that movie eventually, and it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm gonna agree and say Thrawn will be the only Smurf in Ahsoka season 2.
So, real
yes.
quick, the stormtroopers that we saw chase after them that got shot and then came back to life as zombies, we're assuming that they were always dead, right? Because that was my assumption from like the very beginning, is that they were
Yeah,
all dead.
I think so. They were like
Like they
revived,
died
like
in the craft
rotted,
or
and
something. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
The stench. Ugh.
gnarly, stinky.
And that's why they
Yeah,
have like gold bands wrapped through their armor, or like red bands around them, as like some type of magic is in play.
the Night Sisters and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
black eyes, like a doll's eye. Yeah,
Ugh, creepy.
yeah. But yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Last question here. Superman. I saw it. Took my son Johnny. Loved it. It's a hit. Fans, critics. It looks like it's going to make money. Yay for DC. Yay for James Gunn. Wish he was involved with Star Wars. He loves Star Wars
Mhm.
too. But with that said, it's the Man of Steel himself, David Corenswet, widely now known as a huge Star Wars nerd. He has
He
said
brings
he
it
would
up
love.
in every interview.
He can recite the entire Battle of Yavin from his car. There's a viral video of that. He even does the voices, almost like a radio presentation of it. He does sound effects. He said he would love to be a Jedi if he ever got into Star Wars. So, Lacey, I'm going to ask you, with being such a big Star Wars fan, now the star of a Superman movie that is going to end up being one of the most successful Superman movies ever made, will he eventually make his way into a galaxy far, far away?
I'm going to answer your question with a question.
No.
If they're willing to put Lizzo in a Star Wars episode and give her speaking roles, if she holds up a Grogu doll and dresses up as Grogu for Halloween, would they give Superman a role in Star Wars? I would say yes. I think they're waiting to see the reaction of this movie, and then I could definitely see his agent kind of make the play. They got to wait to have a little bit of power in their hand, so to speak.
Now I'm going to bounce it back over the net to you and say,
Okay.
adjustment to the question, significant role.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because in my
I
opinion,
would
Lizzo
love to
was
see
more of
him
a
play.
cameo thing.
Sure. I know. I think he's going to be in it if he's going to be in it.
Okay. He's not going to be like a Gungan on like the corner of the screen or something. Okay.
No, he's going to be a fighter pilot or, maybe a love interest for Rey. Would love that.
Yeah. Great chemistry with Rachel Brosnahan. So.
Oh my God. Did you see that clip of them talking to each other like an inch away from their face?
And they're, I know.
They're both married. He has
I
a
know.
kid, actually. He just had a kid right before he started being Superman. And he's just like, I ripped my jacket. She's like, I shaved my legs before I came here. And I'm like, that's a weird thing to say to someone.
She said, I shaved my legs in the car. And he goes, that sounds dangerous.
Anyway, he has great chemistry with everybody.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him make the jump to Star Wars. We'll always take great actors in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes. What do you think?
I'm going to say yes, too. And for an odd reason, the Ryan Gosling thing. I think the whole Sean Levy, Ryan Gosling thing has kicked some sort of door open that is different from other known actors cast in Star Wars. Ryan Gosling, especially being the lead, he's just such a big star. Like, I remember when like Woody Harrelson was cast, or even Samuel L. Jackson. People were like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Okay. And maybe Adam Driver wasn't a star, so you can't say that. Oscar Isaac was not a big star. Yeah. And maybe I'm missing a big one, but like the Ryan Gosling thing with Sean Levy, who's such a commercially viable director, It's
Yeah.
very like we're in it to be massively successful. And if Lucasfilm's looking over after hearing, and they know that this guy's a big Star Wars fan at this point, he's probably already talked to them, like at
Oh
a
my God.
premiere or something.
He'll be at Mandalorian and Grogu next year.
Yeah, and I know DC is with Warner Brothers and it's not connected to Disney, but they're going to look over and see like, wow, Superman, critics, audiences, box office, and it's a cherished franchise that people hold real near and dear, and he still won them over. Come on over, David. We got a role for you. There's plenty of Jedi, as we all know. So I think, yes, I think David Corenswet, there's a good shot. If he wants to dip his toes in multiple big franchises and make gazillions of dollars signing autographs and taking photos for the rest of his life, I think maybe he will find his way into Star Wars. So I'm agreeing with you.
I agree.
All right. Let us, now that we're all warmed up, we're having fun, let us dip our toes into some darkness, courtesy
That's right. We're having so much fun. We're laughing. We're having a good time talking about Superman.
Balance!
We're about to get real dark.
Balance of the pod. Yes. Now it's time to, thanks to the greatest, Mark Hamill, we're going to have a discussion about Luke and how Mark Hamill, nobody believes in Luke Skywalker like Mark Hamill.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right, so Mark Hamill recently appeared on Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. Go check it out on YouTube, because you always want to see Mark Hamill. I'm sure you could listen to it elsewhere, but I'm not gonna, plug everything for this guy. But Jesse Thorne had him, and I'm jealous. I mean, every podcast is probably jealous. This guy got to talk to Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill rarely does this stuff, and he got him to talk about Star Wars as he's promoting other projects. And we have the clip to pull up that's going to be the central focus. We touched on it a week or so ago, but now it's time to dig deeper in terms of what could have been based on stuff we learned about George and all that sort of thing. But to kick it off, let's hear the words from the man himself about how he brought himself to that dark place Luke needed to go in The Last Jedi.
So I made up a much, much darker backstory that I thought could justify him being that way. What could make someone give up a devotion to what is basically a religious entity, to give up being a Jedi? Well, the love of a woman. So he falls in love with a woman. He gives up being a Jedi. They have a child together. At some point, the child, as a toddler, picks up an unattended lightsaber, pushes the button, and is killed instantly. The wife is so full of grief, she kills herself. I thought that would be, because I think about, I hear these horrible stories about these children that find unattended guns and so forth and wind up dead. And I thought that resonated with me so deeply that that could possibly, but he didn't have the time to tell a backstory like that, I'm guessing. He just wanted a brief thing to explain it. And to me, it didn't justify it. That said, and I told him this, despite the fact that I disagree with your choices for Luke, I'm going to do everything within my power to make your screenplay work as best that I can.
Wow.
Yeah, that is dark.
So dark.
We touched on it a couple of weeks ago, so that's obviously acknowledged. That is wild stuff from Mark Hamill, but it's what he felt like he needed to do to convince himself to play Luke that way, because he just strongly disagreed with the story for Luke in The Last Jedi. But first, before we get into that darkness and what could have been with George's path and maybe some of the similarities between George's treatment and this stuff, it just dawned on me listening to him talk about, what would happen to the child in that situation. And he said he told Rian Johnson this as they were preparing to do this. So then I think about The Last Jedi, and Luke throws the lightsaber away. Still think it would have been better if he did a side fling, like an angry fling versus a flippant behind the shoulder thing.
It was very comical the way he flipped it away.
Yeah, and I remember when I first saw it, there were laughs
laughed.
in the audience, and not all laughs. It was like a little awkward, little like we're not sure what is this gonna be.
Yeah.
So then, later the next time we see the lightsaber, it's in the grass, and there's the little birds. I can't believe the porgs, and
The porgs and the concept art has the lightsaber going through the porg's face.
yes. So
Yeah.
the porg's stepping on the button while the other one's looking in the eye of it. So Ryan Johnson, knowing Mark Hamill's backstory that he created involved a child doing that, Ryan's thought was, let me have
Does that
two
make
porgs.
More messed up?
He's like, let me have porgs do that. And then they decided not to have the porg kill the other porg. It's just, that's darkness from Ryan Johnson right there. And I haven't heard anybody bring that part up, because that's exactly what happens to that porg in the concept art. What would have happened as it's stepping on the thing. Again, it's an innocent, not so intelligent being hitting this button on this weapon without knowing what it is.
Oh my
And
gosh, I
it's-
totally forgot about that until you just brought it up. Like the
Yeah.
fact that Mark goes to him with this deep thought. I wonder if Mark saw that art and was like, is this mocking me? Is this mocking my thought process? Is this kind of a jab? Because I don't know. I feel like there was more. While I do think that Mark gave an incredible performance, and I do think that Ryan Johnson did the movie he wanted to do. I have been open since day one that I don't agree with all the choices that were made specifically for Luke. I wonder if there's more friction there than people want to admit, just because we're being professional and playing nice. At the end of the day, I can't, even just now, I was tearing up listening to Mark Hamill talk about it, because in the Director and the Jedi documentary, he's straight up sobbing on set multiple times.
Yeah.
Like weeping, a grown man weeping on set about this character. So I don't know. I watched this clip and I'm like, he had to bring it to a dark place to, like he said, justify the choice that Luke made, because that's the thing that, as a fan that grew up with the original trilogy, Luke Skywalker is my childhood hero. I wrote about it in books. I have this like little stupid storybook that I made with like my picture in it, and they make you do a bio, and in the bio it says like Lacey loves Luke Skywalker. He's her hero. I can't understand why one boy would drive him to be like, I'm out. And I couldn't get there. And I'm not saying that I'm right and Ryan Johnson's wrong. I'm just saying myself, as someone that had such a connection with that character, I can't bring myself to be like, yes, Luke would do this, because it just doesn't add up to me. And that's fine. I know people have threads of 30 different comments with background information and concept art and clips from the original trilogy and all this other stuff. I get it. I understand. It doesn't mean I have to like it. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
But hearing this is just so depressing, knowing the clips we saw of him in that documentary of like where he was. And I think even talking about it now, you can tell he's just not in a good place with it. He doesn't agree with it. He's not happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And we've
it's
heard
hard.
off the record from people who have spoken with Mark Hamill that he is way more blunt about him not particularly liking it. But we don't need to delve into that part of it too deeply. I think the thing, and I do want to bring up, because a lot of people are like, George never would have done this. And it's like, well, we don't know that, because there are a lot of great aggregated blogs out there that have pieced together things that have been posted by Pablo Hidalgo, or the Star Wars Archives book with interviews with George Lucas, and little bits and pieces that people have thrown out that came from what George's thoughts were. And he did, in fairness to Ryan Johnson and J.J. Abrams, he did have Luke sort of isolated and exiled, sort of, and they said it was like Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, Marlon Brando's character. Just sort of like completely detached from his reality. He sort of left his existence and all that, shut everyone out, and went away to die. But we don't know what the trigger was for George, and I don't think it would have been his nephew, he saw a vision about something his nephew might do.
He would have fought for the nephew. That's the problem I have.
And the reason I say that, and people might disagree because George, the whole poetry thing, and I understand that, but Luke essentially did the same thing Anakin did, which was Anakin had these nightmares about Padme, and he let those carve his path, and he acted upon these nightmares he was having because he felt so confident in his power with the Force, because Anakin was arrogant. He was confident, and he felt like, if I'm having these dreams, they're going to come a reality. It happened to my mom. It's definitely going to happen to Padme, 100%. So I need to prevent her death. And that led to everything happening to him becoming Darth Vader.
His obsession with his relationship with Padme, yes. His love and affection, yeah.
So then Luke finds out this guy, Darth Vader, the most evil dude in the galaxy, save Palpatine, who did all these horrible things, is his father, and he still refuses to give up on that man, and he
forgives
saves
him. Yes,
and I'm not trying to. Sam Witwer did a better job of this than me in this part, but
because Sam Witwer, by the way, he's one of the people that again doesn't agree with Luke's path, right?
Yeah,
that's my understanding.
The best line I saw from Sam Witwer about this was, if you drastically change a hero off screen, you're inviting your audience to disagree with you. And I thought he put that perfectly. I thought that's
a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that was such a brilliant point.
Sam, come on the show.
That would be amazing.
Come chat about it, Sam.
Yeah. And also, you are a phenomenal panel host at Celebration.
Oh my God, so good.
Yeah,
we kept
great.
gushing to everybody about how good you were.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Luke saves that man, his father, even knowing things he actually did. But then flash forward later, and he has a vision about something his nephew might do, and he's like, I'm going to kill him. That's the thing I think bothers people the most. Not so much Luke is exiled, and he gave up because, he failed as a Jedi, and something happened that wasn't by his hand. Luke almost killing his nephew, but not. Even though he didn't do it, that still does bother me too. And I know
it seems out of character. And the thing I've argued is he's the one that gives up everything to help people. He did it in the first movie, then Empire Strikes Back. He leaves Yoda and his training to help his friends. Even after Yoda goes, you need to finish your training. You can't go. He goes, no, I'm going. And then in Return of the Jedi, he's standing there with Leia and he's telling her, I need to leave. He knows I'm here. I'm protecting you. I have to go face him. And Leia's saying, run, get out of here, go somewhere else, which is what he does in the sequel trilogy. And he says, I'm not going to do that. I need to go. So that's like another instance that I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me as what I know of the character and what, as someone that's loved it my whole life, like it just seems out of place, which going back to the Sam Witwer thing, you do it off screen. It doesn't give me the understanding and detail that Rian Johnson has in his head. Like he has pieced this thing together, I think, better, obviously, than anybody else. He wrote the screenplay, he directed the movie. But I've seen him talk online about it being like, yes, that's exactly right. Like this scene makes sense because of this. And I'm like, but that's not explained in the movie.
Yeah. And there's one comparison that people like to use to rebuttal this viewpoint, which is, well, Luke was about to do the same thing to Vader. He was hammering him down with his lightsaber. And I'm like, thinking about, you're comparing that moment to this boy is sleeping.
A child.
He's fighting Darth Vader in that moment. And Vader just said, I'm going to turn your twin sister to the dark side. So Luke snapped and he's in this moment of battle and he's fighting and he's hammering away at him. And then he cuts his hand off and he realizes like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? I'm becoming him. And then
Vader wasn't sleeping, isn't a child.
Exactly. So people are going to be like, well, he stopped himself in Return of the Jedi. I'm like, that is a completely different situation. In this one, it was a premeditated, I'm going to go kill my nephew as he's sleeping. That is a way different thing.
He had to walk over there.
That is a way different thing than you're in the heat of the battle. He just said he's going to turn your sister to the dark side. You got Palpatine there dictating this. Your friends are hanging in the balance. this guy is seemingly trying to also kill you. You're not sure. Is he trying to turn me to the dark side? Is he, I'm saying no. He said, then he's going to kill me. And he's in the heat of one-on-one warfare battle. That's way different than I had a dream about my nephew. And Vader did all those horrible things. And Luke knows all these horrible things he's done. So those are things that actually happened. The only thing Ben Solo did is there's a conjuring in Luke's mind of a vision of him doing dark things.
He literally existed.
Yeah. So Luke obviously winds up being right, but ironically, it's sort of like how Anakin, in his obsession with trying to save Padme, more so than not kills her. He doesn't literally kill her, but he chokes her. She gives up on life. She dies.
The vision came true because of the way he reacted.
Yeah, the one thing he didn't want to happen happens. So then Luke, in the same way, he didn't want to see his nephew become evil. I'm going to kill him. By attempting to kill him, that launched that kid down a further dark path that led to him becoming Kylo Ren. So that's similar in that way too.
They also don't show the vision.
That's another part.
Like Anakin's thing, they show Padme suffering. There's an understanding of these are very horrific things with his mom, etc. They don't show any of that in The Last Jedi. You just have to kind of take his word that he saw this horrible thing, and you're like, okay, but I don't know what you saw because I didn't see it.
Yeah, the only thing they show up is the burning, the actual burning of the temple later. But
which we find out through the comics that he didn't even do. Someone else did it.
Yeah, the Kylo
So
Ren
it's like,
comic,
it's just very confusing. And my issue overall is just it doesn't seem like the character would do that. And I agree with Mark Hamill in this instance. I understand why he felt the way he did at the time when he was shooting it, talking about it now. Past that, though, I think for me, as someone that's loved Luke forever, I would be more understanding if the sequel trilogy was Luke went horribly evil and they were battling Luke that way. Then this kind of half, I did this one thing and now I'm not talking to anybody because it's just so out of character. Whereas if you have him turn full bad and become the big bad that these people are fighting in the sequel trilogy, to me is kind of like, okay, that makes sense. He was the hero in the first one. Now he's the bad guy. Okay, sure. And then you have a consistent bad guy, whereas you don't have the Snoke and then it's not Snoke and then it's Palpatine. And, to me makes more sense than just this weird, hey, I almost killed him this one time. I had a vision. So I walked over there and he was in his pajamas and I was like, yo, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And then he's mad about it. Then the whole grumpiness thing doesn't add up. Why are you grumpy? Wouldn't you be depressed? Why are you so angry and sarcastic and rude? It's just so out of place with what the character is.
Agreed. And there are some more quotes that Hamill gave regarding this. And Star Wars Newsnet put these together. But he said, in Ryan trying to convince him of these things that would be the catalyst for him to exile, Luke pushed back at Ryan and said, I kept saying to Ryan...
You mean Mark?
Mark kept saying to Ryan...
I mean, he is Luke, but...
He is Luke, yeah. Mark said, I kept saying to Ryan, this would just make Luke double down even more. Well, your class at the Jedi Academy were wiped out. And I said to Ryan, I saw entire planets wiped out. If anything, Luke doubles down and hardens his resolve in the face of adversity. So Luke...
Especially for his family. That's the other thing, is that this kid is his family.
Right. And Luke is that the new hope. He is that beacon of goodness. He is sort of like, people saw him sort of like Superman in that way. And Mark cherishes Luke so much, and you could tell in the way he talks about him, Luke is an inspiration to Mark Hamill. And I think this really broke his heart that he had to do this. And that's why I sort of wanted to talk about this quote again, because it's not Mark Hamill saying all right, how do I get into this dark place? Leia and her family get blown up in a lightspeed accident or something. No, he's I'm going as dark as you can possibly imagine going. And
what is the most devastating thing that a parent could go, or someone could go through?
So, and that's telling in itself of in Mark Hamill's view of Luke Skywalker, that's the darkest possible thing you could think of, is the only way he could, as an actor, get himself to take this character he has loved for so long to that place. And hearing, even just listening to it again, hearing Mark Hamill
It's
go
depressing.
through that, like, okay, he had a wife, and he loses her because they had a child. It's like, oh my God, they had a child. Okay, the child dies because of his lightsaber, but I'm not done. The mother then kills herself. It's like, it doesn't stop. It's just like one awful, terrible, tragic thing that you don't even want to imagine after another. And that's, as you're watching The Last Jedi and watching these dark moments of Luke, we now as the audience know that is the thought that Mark Hamill is thinking about as we're watching him deliver these performances. And that is so messed up.
Yeah. I think there's also I just go back to that one shot of Mark up against the rock face crying. And that's always what pops into my head anytime someone brings up Luke and like what Mark Hamill thinks about Luke and how Luke was handled in The Last Jedi. It's like you said, this character is everything to Mark Hamill. It's his legacy. It's who he is. It's like, Carrie Fisher, you brought up the quote where she was like, "This is who we are. We're these people. Like, just get over it." When he
Yes.
at
Yeah.
first wasn't sure about it,
You're
Mark Hamill
Luke.
was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." I think it's hard for him, just like Carrie, it was hard for her to differentiate who's who because it's so ingrained in who they are as people, how they play it, interactions with the fans, what it means to people. Um, and it's just hard for me to watch clips, which I always watch this clip with Adam Scott when he was on the show with, he went on Jimmy Kimmel.
Kimmel. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
it
he
was,
wasn't hosted by Kimmel. It was Kristen Bell. And
yes.
she had Mark show up
Yeah.
and he surprised Adam Scott, and Adam Scott's hands are shaking.
I know.
And I cannot express to you when I saw Mark in the airport how much I was shaking. And just like immediately after the whole thing happened, I just started sweating. Like I was going through such a physical response to
Mhm.
meeting this person that played such an important character that I think it weighs on him on how much it weighs on other people. Like had such an impact and hopeful character that Luke Skywalker, what the ultimate hero. And so then he's like, "Oh, I get to come back and be Luke again." And they're like, "Psych, you actually get to come back and not be Luke.
Yeah.
You're this guy." And he's going, "Wait, what?" Because he
Right.
knows people like my reaction, Adam Scott's reaction, people that are like, "Come to my birthday party." Like Adam Scott at 5 wouldn't invite the Luke from Last Jedi to his birthday party.
Yeah.
So
And
it's tough. It's tough to watch.
and we have to be clear, he did say a lot of really, really nice things about Rian Johnson. He said
Sure.
he loves Knives Out, he loves Brick, he thinks he's one of the best directors, all that. He gave him all the praise in the world, and he praised the final Force encounter between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker. He thought that was so well done, all of it. But it's not about, like, yeah, Luke gets that hero moment, but it still doesn't negate the fact that he made a conscious decision to go kill his nephew in his sleep because he had a dream. Like that
That you
still,
don't see.
yeah, and he does, right, and he doesn't do it, of course, but he still made a conscious, plotted choice to go do that, and he was ignited and about to do it. He had rage in his face. I've never seen Luke Skywalker look evil. He looked evil,
He
and
did
it's
look
like
evil. It was very
Luke
jarring.
Skywalker taking himself to that point, regardless of the hero moments later, is, I think, a thing that a lot of fans, including myself, and I still enjoy The Last Jedi. This isn't an all or nothing thing. I can't. I have a harder time getting over that as time goes on. There are parts of that movie that have aged better for me. That part of it has aged worse, and I just wish. And I think this is where the George Lucas part separates itself. I don't think Lucas would have gone there in terms of how Luke exiled. I think it would have been a more traditional type of thing, sort of like I failed as a master, and that sort of scenario where even Obi-Wan, he exiled himself after a heated one-on-one legitimate battle with someone more powerful than him. This is not that situation. This is a young
And he did it to
training,
protect someone else.
right? And this is
Obi-Wan
a
did it to protect Luke and stay by while Luke was there. So you're throwing away the whole sacrifice that Obi-Wan Kenobi made
like, let's put
for
it
this
this way.
other later choice.
Imagine this in Attack of the Clones. Let's say Obi-Wan has a dream about Anakin turning into the dark side, and there's a scene in Attack of the Clones where Obi-Wan sees him sleeping, and Obi-Wan goes up to Anakin and he's about to kill Anakin. Like, people would be like, that's insane. They would never ever do that. George would never write that because he wouldn't. And that's exactly what this is. So
I just don't see why he, like, just at a basic level of communication, if you have a bad dream about someone, or even a vision, wouldn't you go talk to them first? Like,
Yeah.
hey man, I had this vision. Let's talk. Is something going on? What's going on?
Like
Wouldn't
Anakin
you
did.
consult Leia? Wouldn't you consult Han? Wouldn't you speak to someone? Like, and it
Great point.
again, it's so terrible that you don't see what the vision is. Because even if you see like Kylo Ren slaughtering a family with children and a whole village, wouldn't you then say something? Because Luke is the person that literally in the first movie of Star Wars doesn't shut up and says everything all the time and is like, this is ridiculous. We're not going to do this. Why would we do this? We have to save her. He's just the ultimate good guy. And it just doesn't add up. And that's my problem with his character specifically in the sequel trilogy, how I never got over it. That's why I sat in silence for 45 minutes after watching The Last Jedi. I just, I don't get it. And again, I'm tearing up watching him talk about it because I know that it weighs on him. I know he's not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he makes the joke about it like, I died from too much force. He's like, whoever thought that would happen? And he says that jokingly, but he's saying like, I think it's ridiculous that Luke Skywalker died from using the force too much. Like,
Right. Like he could have died a hero's death. Like I thought it would have been cooler if he died facing Kylo. Like actually being there.
I don't know if it was Pablo Hidalgo, and I don't want to quote him on this, but someone had said that the plan was for Luke. George's plan was for Luke to die in Episode 9, but we know how that would have been. It would have been a hero's death. It would have been the ultimate Luke Skywalker legacy death, where people talk about him for generations and what he did. And you could say that about the Last Jedi moment there, but George wanted to take Luke to the end. He wanted 7, 8, 9. He wanted Luke to be part of the whole thing. And that just wasn't the case here. So there are plenty of similarities between what George wanted to do. He did want Luke exiled. I don't think it would have been for a reason like this. And I think the reason that Luke exiles and having that moment where he just goes to kill his sleeping nephew over a dream is a brutal choice. And I am not of the fan that says, well, Rian Johnson subverted us and took a risk, and that's cool. It's like, not always, in that instance. No, I don't think so. I get it.
For me,
I understand it. It's, but I just don't, that specific part, there could have been another way, is what I'm saying. And
there's
George
nothing
Lucas
more
probably would have used another
insulting
way.
than people being like, you just don't get it. No, I get it.
No, everyone gets it. Yeah, I think Sam Witwer gets it, guys.
Yeah, my kind of bigger picture, even above Luke, my bigger picture issue with Star Wars in general is that Return of the Jedi ends in such a happy way that the good guys win, everybody survives, we're happy. And the sequel trilogy undoes all of that, and everybody dies, and no one ends with a happy ending. Who gets the happy ending at the end of the sequel trilogy? No one. Ben Solo dies, Leia dies, Luke dies, Han dies. Like, who gets a happy ending? Like, they're cheering like, hooray, we beat the bad guy, but is anybody really happy in that ending? Because it doesn't seem like Rey is. It doesn't seem like anybody is. And so that's my biggest issue with the sequel trilogy is like Return of the Jedi ends in such a happy point. in the timeline that you're like, Leia and Han are together. Luke's happy. He honored his father. He's looking at everybody as he's seeing the ghosts from the past that have accepted their fate, that have helped him get to this point. He is the chosen one. And then you have all the Ewoks celebrating, and now what you love, the celebrations of all the galaxy, people being like, hooray, we're out of this. Especially after we just watched Andor and how heavy that is and how many people die in that. And like, there really is no happy ending there either. The fact that now the sequel trilogy has made it that the Skywalker saga isn't a happy ending either. It's just, that's why this makes it so much more depressing. You're like,
Yeah,
just give me one person that ended up in a happy place.
yeah, and you know me, I love the sequel trilogy,
Yeah.
but there are elements of it that are rough, and this moment in the canon timeline has such a chain reaction because, you know, Luke may have been wrong in his vision. Like Yoda even said, the future is clouded. You know, it's always in motion. You know,
And Anakin could have been wrong. Yeah.
Like I said, Luke could have triggered and created Kylo Ren in that moment.
I think he did.
So when I think about that, Luke is sort of responsible for Han Solo's death and Leia's death because
And Ben Solo's death.
Kylo Ren kills Han Solo and
Rey's death.
Leia dies using every last bit of energy she has to connect with her son to stop him from killing Rey. So it's like, if Luke doesn't do that, who's to say Ben Solo doesn't turn? Maybe he doesn't turn to the dark side. Maybe everything ends up being okay, and then there's no Kylo Ren, so Han doesn't die, and yada yada yada. So
Chewie gets to be with his buddy.
It is
Luke Han and Leia are happily married and together.
I know, and it's a very dark choice. It was bold, it was risky, but I'm gonna side with Mark Hamill on this one, and I just think him revealing this is so key because, again, it just shows us how much he thinks of Luke Skywalker, that he had to drum up something so horrible to live in his mind in order to portray the character this way. And it's just absolutely wild. The next time I watch The Last Jedi, all I'm going to think about is him thinking about that scenario. And it just makes it just drowns it in so much more darkness than you thought, because
It really does.
he had to take himself there as an actor because he didn't buy it. He doesn't, you know, what would it take for Luke to do that? That's what it takes. Oh God. So that's all I got on that one. I don't know if you had any final thoughts on it, but I think we tackled it.
I think I've said everything there is to say without just being redundant and repeating myself over and over and over again. It's depressing. Let's get to what they said about some stuff.
So what do you say we turn the dial back to the light side for the last segment of the day?
I would appreciate that.
Let's go.
All right. Whew, we made it, guys. We're here. We did it, fam. It's time for resistance transmissions.
What would you do if the resistance transmission was, what would be the last thing Luke said before he killed Ben Solo?
Oh my God. Please no. So this is one of, if not the favorite segment that we do for me, resistance transmission. So John reaches out via social media on Blue Sky and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and puts out a crazy, wacky situation. And you guys give your answers. And I've never read it. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what you said. And we read it and we see how it goes. I think the best one's still probably the Porg one. It's probably years ago. Was probably the one that like I couldn't get through it. You got so mad at me. All right. So the situation is Grogu is taking side jobs for extra money as he waits for The Mandalorian and Grogu to open in theaters next year. What type of gigs could you see Grogu doing here on Earth to pay the bills? Man, I need some jobs in Grogu. More 5150 at more 5150. What up, man? He said a chef at a Cajun restaurant frying up frog legs. That's actually a great answer. I'll never forget when I was working once, they had frog legs like in the cafeteria, like craft table. And I was like, absolutely disgusting. We were in the South though. It was Louisiana. So, Will of the Force, Will Diamond. What up, Will? How's it going, man?
What up, brother?
I got confused for a second because I was like, Will of the Force. I was like, what?
We already did
At
that.
Will _ of the Force. I know. What up, Will? How's it going? Will met John Boyega.
That's
Will,
cool.
tell me
We need the details.
how John was. He's
No,
awesome.
You're going to say how he smells.
Smells
weren't you?
good. I was getting there. He smells so good. Tell me how he smells. Will said Grogu is doing influencer PR for Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, the Grogoop line. Mudhorn Mud Mask is a bestseller. This is on the heels of the major backlash after his Dairy Queen flavor, Grow Scoops, is canceled online after questionable tweets surfaced from 4BBY saying, not all of the Emperor's ideas are bad. Will, that is so in-depth. That is so thorough. Well done, sir. All right. Neil Shaw's up at Neil Shaw. Way to get
Hey,
your
Neil.
handle. He said cosplay as Stitch for tourists on the Walk of Fame. Radio Free Coruscant at radiofreecoruscant.bluesky.social. What up, Radio Free Coruscant? DoorDash driver, but he just eats it all before he gets there. His ratings are bad.
Yeah. If you get Grogu on your app, you're like, oh, no, we
Oh,
better get
no.
something else. Yeah.
Andrew Staley at Deuce_Staley. What up, Andrew? He said Grogu temporarily takes over as head of Lucasfilm. He does the magic hand thing. and thus the Rey movie and Solo 2 begin production. He would be on our side, guys. He would be on our side.
I love that in Andrew's mind, the side job for Grogu, who's in
Is
Star
head of
Wars, is to just
Lucasfilm.
take over Star Wars. Yeah.
It's just out of Lucas.
I love it.
Side hustle is Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
Kyle Baker. Kyle. What up, Kyle? At lukescreensaber.bluesky.social. What up, Kyle? He said, you know how Robin Hood steals from the rich and gives to the poor? Grogu steals chicken nuggets, Happy Meals to give to underprivileged children. That's actually adorable. And makes money by making YouTube content out of it. So he's like Mr. Beast with Happy Meals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave's Domain at Dave's Domain 2. What up, man? He said Walmart greeter. Would he be a good greeter though? He'd just be like, or he'd like sleep. They'd be like,
He
you
would
gotta get up.
He would get those, but when they have right by the door, they have those giant bins of the cheese puffs. He would just be.
Oh my, you would be in the bin.
He'd be in the bins of the cheese puffs. Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. If you want to be on the show, make sure to follow us on social media at TRB Podcasts and also follow the show on all audio platforms. Leave us a review if you'd like. That would be great. It lets people find us and lets us know how we're doing. And yeah, you're the best. Back to you, John.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching, being in the base, being a part of the resistance with us, being a part of TRB. It means so much to us. So yeah, like Lacey said, spread the word. Please make sure you're subscribed. It's free on all podcast apps. And of course, if you're watching, youtube.com/@TRB podcast. Subscribe to the channel, get the notifications. We have other videos and, of course, our other podcast, Nerdy and Nice, which has its own audio feed. So look up Nerdy and Nice. We're going to be talking Superman. We're going to be talking about all the other stuff we talk about beyond a galaxy far, far away over on Nerdy and Nice. Same feel, same TRB, just all the other good stuff. And then, yeah, with Resistance Broadcast, TRB podcasts everywhere. We have to give a special shout out to the Patreon generals and spice runners. We have General Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Chris Morales, Mike Ramori, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Colin Cormier, Stephen Garrow, Sachi, and Darth Snips. And the spice runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gellner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, the Fort Worthian, and Brian Smith. And all of our patrons, all of our listeners, all of our supporters. Thank you all so much. You are the best. We love doing this, and we hope you enjoyed as much as we enjoy making it. So, Lacey, where can people find you to talk about all these crazy light side, dark side stuff we talked about today?
If you want to talk about how Luke Skywalker is the best, you can hit me up at Lacey Gillerin on social media or at It's Lacey Gillerin on TikTok.
For now.
We'll
get to that.
It's always constantly changing.
Yeah. And for me, Johnny Hoey on Blue Sky and a little bit of Twitter, X, whatever. That Twitter CEO stepped down. I was like, I've never heard of this person in my life. I didn't even know they had another person in charge. But anyway, yeah, hit me up there to talk about all this stuff. I always love talking about Star Wars with rational people. And for us, we'll be back with you next week with another episode. Maybe dig out an old segment, maybe get a guest. Who knows? It might just be the two of us doing this exact episode again because it was
The
so fun.
summer is a little slower. People are busy with family stuff and whatnot. But we are working on guests. If you have any requests, leave them in the comments.
Yeah, and if you happen to see somebody who you think would be a great guest at a convention or whatever,
Tag us.
let them know. Resistance Broadcast.
We'd love to have them.
We do great interviews with guests. We would love to have them. So let them
We
know.
really do.
Yeah. All right, but that's it for us. For everyone who loves Nerdy and Nice, we'll see you all Monday. And we hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and your summer is going well. And until next time, we'll see you around, kids.